On October 26, 1979, Park Chung-hee, the president of South Korea for 18 years, he never expected he was assassinated by his most trusted confidant. And that's when the political situation was shattered. The South Korean government was left without a leader. Prime Minister Choi Gae-ha was acting as president. The head of the army, General Young Sung-hwa, he's ready to abolish the dictatorship constitution, in line with public opinion in the United States, to promote democratization than those who had been suppressed by Park Chung-hee. This short period of time, it was called the Spring of Seoul. Why was it short? Because the light of democracy was just a flash in the pan, before it was replaced by another fast-rising dictator, the famous Major General Chun Doo-hwan, the 12th president of Korea. He took advantage of the unstable situation. He staged a coup d'etat and arrested Young Sung-ho. He took over the command of the army. Why did he suddenly step into the center of power? Today, let's talk about last year's record-breaking movie in Korea, Seoul Spring. First, we need to understand the background of the time. Although the movie recreates the process of his coup d'etat, there are some very important points that are not clear. For example, at the beginning, Chun was still there, served as the head of the joint investigation into the assassination of the president. Why did he grow so big so fast after that? It's all about the structure of the military government under Park Chung-hee. During Park Chung-hee's reign, there were three pillars of power in Korea. Let's start with the army headquarters. Young Sang-hwa is the head of the army. He's a general. Then the Central Intelligence Department. It's a violent organization that's prominent in every dictatorship. Their heads are commonly known as the head of intelligence. It's very common in anti-Japanese war movies. The boss here is Kim Jae-gyu, one of Park Chung-hee's closest confidants. He was also the second in command of the government at the time, but he's also the one who assassinated Park Chung-hee. And then there's the guard. His boss is Cha-ji. Why is a small guardhouse one of the three most powerful organizations? That's where we come in. Park Chung-hee's assassination in 1974. He didn't die, but his wife did. Since then, Park Chung-hee took his security seriously. He raised the power of the chief of police by a large margin, to the point where he could checkmate the army headquarters and the Central Intelligence Agency. He can even be arrested under the pretext of protecting the president's security, under the guise of protecting the president's security, who are considered a threat to the regime. A little security mayor who's been able to fuck with the big boys on the outside. This is a very distinctive feature of authoritarian regimes. The culture of retainers of the inner court overseeing the outer court. It's also known as the state of small circles, the politics of the secret room. Basically, they have a special relationship with the leaders, like classmates, close friends, and relatives. They have direct access to the prison, so they have a lot of power. No one dares to offend them. Park Chung-hee at that time, through Kim Jae-gyu, he ruled the country through the information of the coterie. Park Chung-hee's daughter. She's a close friend of the president's. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to the provocation period. A few months before the assassination, there was a conflict between the two most important people around him. What kind of conflict? The demonstrations in Busan and Masan couldn't be suppressed. He wanted to be the second in command of the country and get rid of the intelligence chief. That's why he blamed Kim Jae-gyu for his poor suppression. And Kim Jae-gyu had a very complicated heart. He saw the wave of democratization supported by the US. The more they fought, the more outrageous it became. It was almost like they were on a collision course. It's rumored that they fought at Cheonghwa Day. How did they fight? The ministers of Namsan have all told us about it. And then, Park Chung-hee saw Kim Jae-gyu as the organization's second in command. He's also very dissatisfied. He's going to get rid of him. I've been in the intelligence business for many years. Kim Jae-gyu knows he will be forbidden, so he killed by Park Young-hee and Cha-ji Chai. When the assassinations are over, he was not well prepared. Chun Doo-hwan got the news first, then got Kim captured alive and thrown into prison. As you can see, Kim Jae-gyu's assassination directly eliminated two of the most powerful men in the country, as well as himself. If it's a coup d'etat, I don't understand what he did afterward. He planted evidence, but he didn't use it. After killing the president, he even tried to drag Army Chief Young Sang-ho into it, but it didn't take long for him to get caught. He was arrested. That's why, when this guy was being interrogated by Chun, he said he was trying to end the dictatorship, for the sake of democracy. In fact, he was not well prepared for the coup. Parasites of power. They're not good at anything except screwing people, and they think they know what they're doing. They're so arrogant. History is full of such people. buried countless dynasties, it can be said that Park Chung-hee's right-hand men at that time were all such mediocre people. This is one of the characteristics of authoritarian governments. The three pillars of power in Korea at that time. There was only one left. The army's chief of staff, Yoon Sung-ho. Does he have any ambition? It's hard to say. Because of the political changes at that time, everyone knew. As soon as he reached out his hand, the military and political power would be at his fingertips. And he seems to be pro-American. He was also a bit hesitant, so after the December 12th coup, he insisted that he had no ambition for the presidency. And that's in this movie. In his memoirs of the Night of the Generals. It's all in the name. With the help of a favor, he supported then-acting President Choi in taking power. One of the few positive characters in this movie. First, he's not a member of a small circle. Second, he's a supporter of democracy. Third, he opposes military intervention. But he supported the acting President Choi Gi-hwa. This Choi is a diplomat and a scholar. He doesn't have a strong hand. Plus, his previous position was Prime Minister. Everyone knows the Prime Minister of Korea. He's a mascot. When the president does something wrong, he's the one who always takes the fall. That's also the most frequently changed position in the Korean government. It's also the post with the most frequent turnover rate in the Korean government. The average tenure of all prime ministers is very short. This is well documented. I won't go into that here. So that's it. A mascot can command the former junta's people? Obviously not. So, Choi Gi-hwa knew what he was doing. As soon as this big event happened, immediately follow the procedures of national martial law. Jo Seung-ha became the commander-in-chief. He's a pro-American. The former president's loyalists are still waiting to see what happens. They couldn't take command at all under such a situation. The top of the government, basically in a power vacuum. Those die-hard loyalists and power parasites, are they willing to be democratized? After democratization, will the money that they embezzled and took bribes? Will any of these people stand up to restore the old order? The answer is no. And so it will be. Our Major General at this very appropriate time. He has a very important status. He's Park Chung-hee's godson and trusted by Park Chung-hee. He's also the commander-in-chief of security and the head of army intelligence. On the night of the president's assassination, he was the first to get the news from Yoon Sang-ha. He captured Kim Jae-gyu. So there was no surprise. With this big job, he was directly appointed as the head of the Joint Search Division, specializing in the presidential assassination case. The position of the head of the Joint Search Department. At first glance, it looks like a case commissioner. Nothing special, but if you think about it, he's got a lot of power. He screwed all of his political enemies, and whoever didn't obey was to blame. So in less than a month, he raised his power by a huge margin to the point where he was almost the second in command of the army. He's right up there with Jung Seung-hee, of course. There is another very important reason here. When he was young, with his best friend Lee Tae-yu, they formed a small group called the Five-Star Society. At first, it was just a way to avoid being bullied at the military academy, but later, Fist-hwan accidentally got on Park Chung-hee's good side. He kept recruiting new members to show their loyalty to the president, where they were all for the president. So they changed their name to Yeok-sing-wi. In 1973, when he was promoted to brigadier general, Park Chung-hee gave him a car. By 1979, Yeok-sing-wi was strong and powerful. The honorary president. There were even veterans in the military, like Chen Jong-tsai, the commander-in-chief of the 2nd Field Army. Most importantly, there are many young and strong officers in their organization. They're in every key department of the military and government. How powerful are they? Let's take another example. Cha Ji-chai and Kim Jae-gyu are gone. Brigadier generals and leaders of the Ilshin Society. They took control of Central Intelligence almost immediately. And the security office, called Fist Fighting Han. It was a no-brainer. He's got these two pillars in his soul. The Korean army at that time, it's a perfect replica of the old Japanese army. They only obeyed the orders of their immediate superior. To mobilize the brigade units around Seoul, you'd have to go through at least 2 levels. You'd have to communicate with the Americans. In the Fist Society, there are 10 fists at the division level. I'm not going to list them all. We'll talk about that later. Chun Do-young has gathered a large number of fans so quickly. As the power of John Do-yu is expanding day by day, Cho Sang-ha's side also felt the crisis. In case a new dictator rises up, so he decided to slowly weaken John Do-yu's power. He's going to replace the commander of Seoul's police force. This position belonged to the conservative faction, so he found a general who is quite upright. Yan Tae-maru. He's also one of the main characters in this movie. However, he first doesn't want to get involved in political infighting. Eventually, because of Yoon Sung-ho's repeated invitations, he decided to take over. After all, he's not afraid of offending anyone. On November 9th, at a meeting of the national commanders, Cho Sang-ha made it clear that the army should not interfere in politics. After the meeting, Chun Do-hwan approached Cho Sang-ha. He suggested that he withdraw Jang's appointment. Instead, he recommended his buddy, Ro Tae-gyu. But Cho Sang-ha didn't give him any respect. Afterwards, he was angry. He wanted to find out what kind of person Jang Tae-moon was. Jang Tae-moon met him and said, "Recently, there's been a surge in democracy. You're arresting everyone you see." In a few words, Chun almost choked and realized they're not on the same side at all. Then Tae-maru especially despises Chun. Everywhere he goes, he's surrounded by people. They are all villain. They are now official enemy. On November 16th, Jang Tae-maru was reassigned as the capital police commander. But he realized right away, this position was very embarrassing. The 3 brigade commanders under his command were all from the Ishing society. He might not be able to command them. Fist for Fist decided to find out more about Jung Sang-ho, to see if he has any intention of becoming president. Chun found $900 million in Chong Hwa-dae's secret vault. Out of those, $600 million was given to the ex-president Park Chung-hee's eldest daughter. $100 million was used as a search fee for the attorney's office. There's $200 million left. Chun wants to bribe Zhang for him to use them as he sees fit. If Zhang Shenghe takes the money, it means Zhang Shenghe has the ambition to become the president. After taking the money, Chun will follow Zhang. However, Chun directly scolded him for not following the proper procedures. Shouldn't the money go to the national treasury? He has no intention of becoming president. He's a staunch Democrat, and not a fan of the old military government's corruption and bribery. He ordered them all to be replaced. From now on, every 3 hours, you'll report on the progress of all cases. And you're going to keep it that way. So the two of them were at loggerheads. They got into a confrontation. Chun was scolded and was so angry. He had an idea of revenge. Jung Sung-ha must be eliminated. What is politics? If you don't like it, I'll screw you. On the night of the president's assassination, Jung Sung-ha was at the scene of the assassination, but he was next door. After the president's death, Jo Sung-ha realized that Kim Jae-gyu had saved the murderer. That's why he ordered the arrest of Kim Jae-gyu. He was freed from the suspicion of being an accomplice. Now, Chun Do-hwan wants to reopen the investigation on Cho Sang-ha. He's trying to paint him as an assassin of the president. The reason why the plan didn't do it right away is because it's too big a deal. Cho Sang-hwa suggested to the Minister of Defense to reorganize the military. Chun Do-hwan and his cronies will be transferred to the East Coast. The Defense Ministry overheard it. It reached Chun Do-hwan's ears. On December 6th, Mr. Fist and his buddy, Mr. Ro Tae-woo. There's only one way to break the deadlock, is to arrest Jung Shenghe. Of course, Mr. Liu wouldn't dare to do such a big thing. But Chun is in a position of power. He thinks it's better to go for it. I'd give it a shot. On December 8th, he talked to Ro Tae-woo again. This time, Ro Tae-woo was finally persuaded. On December 9th, all senior members and honorary presidents of the Yishinkai held a secret meeting. Because just yesterday, Zhou Shenghe had already promoted his close friend Zheng Bingzhou as the commander-in-chief of the Airborne Combat Unit. He's already working on personnel reforms. On December 12th, after the cabinet meeting on December 12th, he won't be transferred to an unoccupied post. His political career is over. So these people are just like Ro Tae-woo. Because as long as Zhou Shenghe is arrested, we'll be able to reverse the situation. But to arrest Zhou Shenghe, must first comply with the procedure before Chao Sang-hwa can react. He will be arrested. In that case, it's similar to an armed coup. So we have to comply with the procedure first. We have to ask the president to authorize it. And as we said before, after the death of the last president, the guards all became members of the fist fight. He's sure he'll get the authorization. Then it's all about the details of the arrest. We mustn't give Jung Sang-ho time to react. If a confrontation breaks out, there'll be trouble. So they decided to go to the president to get the authorization and arrest Jung Sung-ho at the same time. If they really bring down Jung Sung-ho, then it's a no-brainer. The revolution will be a success. Chun will get the top command of the army. All the generals here will at least get another star. They decided to do it on the night of December 12th, just in case. They also added the 12th day of the December. At 9 a.m., Chun is going to try to take down the army chief without any conflict. But just as John Do-hwan was about to leave and meet the president, Cho Sung-ha called and asked for an appointment. Every false alarm. Cho Sung-ha wanted him to find out about Kim Jae-gyu's interrogation and to be careful of North Korea. He told Young to wait until 6:30 or so. His intelligence chief will come to his home to report on the assassination case. Young agreed. Once he gets authorization from the president, we'll arrest them at the same time. 6:20 Jang Tae-maru, Young Byung-ho, and Kim Jin-ki arrive at Yin Shidong's private club. They're ready to start drinking. Chun went to the president's residence. President Choi Gai-hwa is reading the documents. He still thinks there's something fishy going on here. The Minister of Defense had to sign it with his seal. But the Minister of Intelligence is already in a difficult position. Young is furious after knowing he will get investigated. Who did you get the authorization from? The Minister of Intelligence said it was the president. He was about to call for confirmation. They opened fire and kidnapped him. Young Sung-ha was in the process of moving the hostages. Young Sung-ha was successfully kidnapped. But the Minister of Defense, who lives not far away, heard the gunshots. He ran to the U.S. Korea headquarters to hide. He tried to ask the Americans to send troops. And sure enough, the Americans didn't agree. At 1:20, Jang Tae-won and his men are drinking and singing. But it wasn't long after that. They received the news what had happened to the general commander. They rushed back to their headquarters. After briefly understanding the situation, Jang Tae-moon realized that Chun Do-hwan had staged a coup d'etat. He ordered the arrest of Chun Do-hwan. John Do-hwan was just about to leave the house. He was surrounded by gendarmes. Why is he surrounded by guards, not by his charge? Because gendarmes at the gate are under the military police department. If we catch the criminal here, then the new military government will have nothing. However, Deputy Chief of Staff Yoon Sung-min, he's accusing Kim Jin-gi of being ridiculous. Kim Jin-gi said that the security chief arrested the generalissimo. Yoon Sung-min said even if he did, he had to sign off on it. He didn't think it was a good time to arrest Chun Do-hwan. So he ordered the guards at the Prime Minister's residence to stay put. This gives Chun Do-hwan a chance to escape. He ordered his subordinates to kill the guards, then crash through the gate. Only then, they issued the first alert. The kidnapping incident is identified as a military coup led by the Security Command Chun Do-hwan. Because the Ilshan Society is now in the 30th Police Regiment, now they're all under Chun Do-hwan's command. Jan Tae-maru cannot control them. He swore that he'd come here in an armored car and crush the rebels' heads one by one. When they heard the news, there were a lot of sighs of relief. That means they'll then come to kill us in the name of the country. They all wanted to surrender. They want to give Young Sung-ha back. They didn't think it was a coup from the beginning. They just wanted to get rid of Young Sung-ha. The seniors started scolding Chun Do-hwan. Chun Do-hwan just yelled back, "Are you all so naive? You think you can just give Young Sung-ha back? You will still all die. At least Young Sung-ha is still in our hands. History is written by the winners. We have to call the 1st Airborne Brigade that's closest to Seoul to enter the city as soon as possible. But if they send in their troops, they'll recognize the coup." That's why they've been arguing for a long time. In the end, Chun's best friend, Mr. Lee Tae-yu, came out in support of the coup. He said his 9th Division will send 2 companies right now to Seoul, followed by his predecessor, Hwang Young-suk. With the support of these 2 men, the Ilshan Society side has entered the coup mode. As you can see from the map, his unit is very close to Seoul. They can cross the bridge in no time. They'll surround the army's headquarters. For Chun, they're forcing the president to sign. Get the authorization as soon as possible. Because as long as we get the authorization, there's still a way to turn this around. As soon as they receive the news, Yoon Sung-min and his staff are in over their heads. It's said that out of the 450 generals and colonels, only Jang Tae-moon and a bunch of junior aides were left. There was no one left to fight. He immediately called the Airborne Special Operations Commander, Young Byung-chul, to withdraw his troops immediately. At the same time, he asked for help from the 3rd Field Army. Lee Jianrong agreed to send the Cell Phone Division and the 26th Division to intercept the 1st Airborne Brigade. Their speed is a bit slow. Jang Tae-maru came up with another idea. The 1st Airborne Brigade must enter Seoul. The first step is to cross the Han River. All 3 bridges are under Jang's jurisdiction, so he immediately ordered his men to block the bridges. The bridge was blocked by private cars. It directly delayed the coup a little more. The 1st Airborne Brigade will have to detour to the 30th Division's Hongju Bridge. The Chief of Staff is in a dilemma. Commander Naoki told him to cross the bridge immediately, but the higher commander, Young Byung-hwa, told him to withdraw to the headquarters. It's the same old story. The Korean army is a successor to the old Japanese army system. They only follow the orders of their immediate superiors. That's why Young Byung-hwa's command is a bit weak. Can we get to the Xingzhou Bridge? Where's the 30th Division commander? He received a call to block the bridge. But the worst thing is Security Command tapped the entire army's phones. So they called the 30th Division immediately and threatened him not to do anything. So the division commander was in deep shit. He ordered his men to stay put. Commander Zhang Taiwan had no choice. He had to go to Xinzhou Bridge himself. Commander Zhang found out that the bridge is not blocked. The guards wouldn't listen to him. He had no choice. He tried to block the passage of the 1st Airborne Brigade with his body. The little chief of staff of the 1st Airborne Brigade. He was in a dilemma. The brigade commander told him to crush Zhang Taimaru. The chief of staff was under a lot of pressure. In addition to the warning of Commander Yang Byung-mu, and let only one person to force back the army. This scene looks quite miserable. Chun Do-hwan came back to the Prime Minister's residence. He went straight to Choi Gai-hwa's office. He forced his way into the palace again. President still won't budge. He won't sign until the Minister of Defense seals it. Chun Do-hwan was helpless. His secretary also gave him some very bad news. The 1st Airborne Brigade has been dissuaded by one man. Chun rushed back to the coup headquarters. When he saw Park Cheol-do, he pulled out his pistol and said, "Either you kill me now, or go to the 1st Airborne and freaking bring the troops back to the bridge." While crying, he went after his 1st Airborne Brigade. He took out his gun and handed it to his chief of staff. He said the same thing: "Either you turn around and go back to the bridge, or you can shoot me right now." Such a laughable scene. But the troops indeed were go their way back to the bridge. Is 01 Brigade alone all that matters? Definitely not. Young Byung-chul also sent his 9th Airborne Brigade. They are all introduce you to Young Byung-chul. There are 7 airborne brigades under him. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. But 3 of them have to be mobilized by the United States. There's only one brigade commander in the 9th Brigade that can be commanded right away. His name is In Xingjia. If one brigade pushes into Seoul, the rebels will be unable to recover. What is the advantage of the rebels? They're tapping into the entire military and got the upper hand on the government forces. For example, the military is hanging on to 2 divisions and a brigade, but they've been persuaded to stop by the Yixing chiefs after overheard the calls. If the 1st Brigade returns to Seoul, they will inevitably lose. How can we solve this situation?
Commander Yang Taimaru
saw a silver lining in the situation. The 9th Airborne Brigade. It's the same unit that was under Young Byung-mu's command. This brigade is also very close to the capital. They can definitely enter the circle ahead of the others. Most importantly, the brigade commander In Xingqi is not a member of the Yixing Hui. Just like him, he was graduated from the military academy, looked down on him. So Zhang Taimaru immediately called Yoon Sung-ji. That's how he convinced In Xingqi to send the 9th Airborne Brigade. It's expected to reach the capital before the 1st Airborne Brigade. I don't care how many soldiers you lose. It's all about getting a head start. In other words, no matter how the other corps move, the first one to arrive, that side wins. So after getting the news, Yixing Hui's old generals began to regret and start to complain. When Chun saw this situation, he was really angry. He gave a good scolding to a bunch of lieutenant generals. In fact, people are all like this. They're all afraid of death. Chun suddenly thought of a brilliant idea. He directly called the deputy chief of general staff. "We were wrong. We just wanted to investigate Zhang Shenghe first. As long as we both take a step back, then send Zhang Shenghe back." When Yoon Sung-min heard this, he doesn't know what to do again. Naturally, he wants to make everyone happy. He doesn't want any conflict. So he gladly reached an agreement, and so they withdrew their troops. It's an obvious trap. Young Byung-young and Zhang Taimaru see through this. But they couldn't stop the stupid chief of staff. The 9th Airborne Brigade withdrew in no time. When the 9th Brigade was far away, the 1st Airborne Brigade sneaked back and quickly took control of the Hyeongju Bridge. Then they approached Seoul quietly to the military headquarters. When Yoon Sung-min got the message, it's over. A group of high-ranking officials immediately abandoned the army headquarters and moved to Zhang Taimaru's police headquarters, so they can no longer be blamed for. Before the military have even seen one bullet yet, the chiefs of staff all ran away. The reason why the rebels won. Yoon Sung-min's mediocrity is to blame. When Yixing Hui heard about the military retreat, their morale is soaring. There's only one left, Zhang Taimaru. He has no soldiers and no generals. Young Byung-mu heard that the deputy chief of staff had run away. In the end, his aide-de-camp was killed on the spot. He was wounded and captured. Zhang Taimaru is the only one left at the military headquarters. 1:40 a.m. The 1st Airborne attacked the Ministry of Defense. They captured the army headquarters. When Zhang Taimaru found out about this, he's shocked. Soon the rebels will surround him as well. He still has 4 combat vehicles and 4 armored vehicles. To capture Chun Do-hwan, he's ready to do one last fight before dying. However, there were only 100 people willing to risk their lives with him. There's no point in resisting. His general advised him not to go. Besides, the chief of staffs are a bunch of losers. But for Jang Taomaru, he's a man of integrity. He's the kind of man who'd rather die on the battlefield. Why did he dare to attack the rebel headquarters? Because he still has one last card in his hand. It's his field artillery regiment. When he passed the statue of Yi Sun-shin in the middle of the city, his troops have arrived. The rebel headquarters of the 30th Police Regiment. Come out and surrender immediately. Otherwise, in 5 minutes, I'll blow them all up with my cannon. So the rebels turn to chaos again. In exchange for death is not a win for the. So Chun rushed down to stall for time, just when the rebels were about to be annihilated. Defense Minister. He dismissed Jang as the commander of the Capitol Police. It's a nice strategy from Chun. You are loyal, don't you? I get your immediate superior to order you. Jang Taomaru felt a wave of dizziness. Jang disbanded the death squad. A shocking coup d'etat, the spring of democracy, was cut short. Do-hwan came to the Prime Minister's office for the 3rd time. This time, Choi Gai-ha couldn't refuse any longer. He had to sign the letter of authorization. Chun Do-hwan took control of the military and government. In September 1986, he couldn't wait to take power. A minor general jumped several ranks. He became the president of the country in a few months. In May, before he even took office, he cracked down on Gwangju. Thousands of casualties. It's called the Gwangju Incident.